diplomacy is in a way important during normal times, but it becomes critically important when communication channels break down. I think it's critical.
They are a vital instrument to promote those opportunities as well as to create opportunities.
The Navy and the diplomacy goes hand in glove, and in that sense I think it is critically important that the naval officers from their younger age get a necessary exposure to international relations, how the world dynamics are playing in the world arena, and to develop their career.
Diplomats are the first line of defense, and more often than not, they are the key actors in projecting Sri Lanka's image abroad.
Celebrating 25 years since our founding, the Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute is proud to showcase our activities and accomplishments in celebration of 25 years of being the premier institute for studies in diplomacy and world affairs in Sri Lanka. In an effort to document the many milestones and memories of the BIDTI through the years, we take a look back at our history and the many distinguished personalities behind our institute's success. Here is our story. The BIDTI was the brainchild of Madam Sirimao Bandaranaike. The success of the institute and its achievements are the culmination of Prime Minister Sirimao Bandaranaike's commitment to professional diplomacy, an outstanding feature of her statesmanship. Sirimao Bandaranaike was not only the first female Prime Minister in a world where executive political leadership was confined to male dominance, but she brought a fresh dimension to the understanding of foreign relations and the importance of non-alignment. Her efforts to unify developing smaller nations for the mutual benefit were a highlight in her political career. She leaves a legacy of having obtained unparalleled respect from world leaders, the affection of the masses, and having had great charisma as one of Sri Lanka's most respected and beloved leaders. Madam Sirimao assigned the task of establishing BIDTI to senior-most professional diplomat, Dr. Vernon L.B. Mendes. The realization of Mrs. Bandaranaike's goals of establishing such an institute was realized thanks to a very generous contribution made by the government of Germany through His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Michael Schmidt to meet all initial expenditure, and as well as through a grant offered by President Chandrika Kumaratunga Bandaranaike from the Presidential Fund of Sri Lanka.
Well, in 1995, Honorable Prime Minister Sirimao Bandaranaike, having identified the need of establishing a diplomatic training institute, which was an essential requirement to train, recruit the foreign service as well as diplomatic officers of Sri Lanka, decided that it was only Dr. Vernon Mendes who was the most qualified academically and professionally.
As the first Director General of the BIDTI, Dr. Vernon L.B. Mendes deserves much recognition for his services rendered as a diplomat, historian, researcher, and policymaker in the realm of foreign affairs and governance. His persistent commitment to train young professionals in their chosen careers stand out in his career in diplomacy.
Dr. Mendes proceeded to establish the BIDTA at the BMA stage with a typewriter borrowed from the BCIS to do the preliminary work in organizing the institute.
I still remember the first day in the BIDTI with the founder, Director General, Dr. Vernon Mendes, who trained us as DG. We were a batch of 15, and we also had Dr. Ramadevaraj conducting part of the program. So I would say it's very important for the Foreign Service, Sri Lanka Foreign Service, to be capacity enhancement, training for the Sri Lanka Foreign Service is very important, and I consider it a particular milestone that the founder director of the BIDTI was our founder director general of the BIDTI. I was the person who trained us. Now, Dr. Vernon Mendes was from the first Foreign Service batch of Sri Lanka. And I think that was perhaps one of the few occasions where there was a very formal training course, a tailor-made course assigned and made available to us.
The dynamic leadership provided by Dr. Mendes contributed immensely to the ideals of professional diplomacy and remains a palpable reason behind the success of the BIDTI as an institute that molds diplomats. As the second Director General of the BIDTI, Dr. Lona Devaraja had an illustrious career spanning from Associate Professor in History at the University of Colombo to a Cecil Rhodes postdoctoral fellowship at St. Anne's College, Oxford. Dr. Devaraja was the president of the Sri Lanka Federation of University of Women and secretary of the Royal Asiatic Society of Sri Lanka, in addition to having several articles of historical interest to her credit.
Dr. Lona Devaraja especially, I remember at this point as someone who brought in great resources into our training as well as to the general program.
Dr. Sarala Fernando took over the reins in 2008 to 2011 as the third Director General of the BIDTI, having pursued her BA with first-class honours from the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka, Master of Modern Studies from the University of Caen, France, Master of International Public Policy from Johns Hopkins University, and a PhD in India-Sri Lanka relations at the University of Colombo, along with several other accreditations. Dr. Sarala Fernando retired from the Sri Lanka Foreign Service in December 2007, following ambassadorial postings in Thailand, Sweden, as Ambassador Permanent Representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations and international organizations in Geneva.
Well, it certainly was a challenging time because at that period the BIDTI was facing quite a few problems. We were expected on the one hand to be independent, to earn our own funds and run the institute independently, and at the same time maintain the high standards that Dr. Vernon Mendes and Dr. Lona Devaraja had instilled. And also there was this issue that we were very much under their influence because Dr. Mendes and Dr. Devaraja were both historians, and their vision of the program and the course of studies depended very much on historical record. So we had to look to the present and to the future. So that was a very big challenge. And fortunately, the University of Colombo, Department of International Relations, was a steadfast friend of the BIDTI. And with their help, we managed to get this new program up and running. And I think it's doing well even today. And I'm very pleased every time I come to the BIDTI to notice so many improvements, increase in size, increase in student enrollment, rooms and facilities are so much better. And now finally, the BIDTI is inside very much within the Foreign Ministry. So it's a great strength and a new direction.
The present Director General, Ambassador Pamela J. Dean, has introduced many features to the BIDTI. Among those are multifacets of diplomacy such as economics, defense, health, science, diplomacy, and speechcraft, as well as the introduction of a special guest lecture series. The decision of publishing an academic journal, Diplomacy and World Affairs, in 2019 gave an impetus to the institute. The ICRC recognized the BIDTI as the only diplomatic training institute in South Asia that promotes and teaches humanitarian diplomacy and law. Ambassador Dean introduced new topics relevant to global issues of importance as well as developments in Sri Lanka, enabling participants to familiarize themselves in order to engage in the international fora.
When I joined the BIDTI, I thought of adding value to the institute by introducing new ventures and tasks to prepare the participants of our programs to meet the challenges of the 21st century. As such, taking into consideration of the global developments as well as Sri Lanka's priorities, we introduce new topics and special events at the BIDTI. Those sections pave way for opportunities and recognition to the institute. We also reconnected the BIDTI with the International Forum of Diplomatic Training, where all the foreign service office institutes are accredited. The year 2019, last year, it was a landmark year. We have approached by a number of government and international organizations to organize training programs. Among those, the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Public Administration, as well as international organizations such as ICRC, WHO, and UNITA. We collaborated with them to organize training programs. Over the years, more than 10,000 participants have benefited from the institute through learning diplomatic skills and conduct of international relations. It is heartening to note that the second generation of the former participants are joining the courses today.
The diploma course is quite interesting because it was the first avenue that I had to explore international relations from a practitioner's perspective. And the BIDTI was a stepping stone in that manner because I was able to, for the first time in my life, interact with high commissioners and ambassadors from Sri Lanka and abroad. And I was able to understand how they project their country's image, as well as the ways in which they deal with criticism, as well as the way in which they project a positive image of their country in different aspects. And in that sense, I'm really thankful for the BIDTI because I've gone to several other courses in international relations. I've also pursued an undergraduate degree from the University of Colombo, but I've never had that opportunity that I had at the BIDTI to interact, mingle with individuals from diverse sectors, not just ambassadors and high commissioners, but also individuals from the NGO sector, individuals who are from the foreign ministry, as well as individuals from various different walks of life. So in terms of speaking about the experience, not just being a student and engaging with the lecturers, but also being a student among the rest of the crowd. And the crowd had they were from different ages, they spoke and we interacted and we became very, very close friends. If I reminisce my days back at the BIDTI, it was an enthralling experience, and for me personally, I think the best part of it was engaging and interacting with ambassadors and high commissioners. I loved that aspect of the BIDTI course.
Well, I believe BIDTI course in world diplomacy, as then it was called in 2006, was in fact my first exposure to international relations and diplomacy proper. And I think that gave me an encouragement to continue my studies on international relations. And based on the BIDTI course, I ended up doing a Masters in International Studies from King's College London. And then I did not really stop at that. I even went on to do a PhD, and I think the foundation was laid here at the BIDTI. That time it was Dr. Vernon Mendes who was the director, and I, as a very fairly middle level officer, I was amazed to hear the speeches delivered at the course by various veteran diplomats, lawyers and doctors. And I thought at that time, one day, I wish I could be like that. And I think that dream also has come true, because by now I am also a guest lecturer in this very prestigious institution, and I have really benefited and I have enjoyed my exposure and also my working relationship with the BIDTI at all times.
Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute approach to education, that is to bring in not only governmental people but from the corporate sector, from the civil society area, from other international players. I think it should be further strengthened. I commend the Director General Ambassador Kamaladi for especially trying to involve a number of international organizations, like including some multilateral organizations like WHO, ICRC, and the Graduate Institute of Geneva. This not only brings the width and depth to the activities, but also it promotes international cooperation. So we, as a small country, we can derive much benefits.
The BIDTI's postgraduate program consists of a strong research component. Participants who are predominantly graduates and professionals in the field are able to both benefit from and contribute to the field of academia and research.
When we initially created, or when we co-designed, Dr. Sarala and I we were discussing it. One of the most interesting factors was that people from different experiences, different knowledge bases came for the BIDTI. There were students who were just out of A-levels. But then you have people who have spent 40 years in the civil service or in different sectors, and they come for the knowledge that the BIDTI program gave. So that was why we thought, okay, then we can tap into that knowledge and get them to do something that interests them, because they are presenting from a perspective that we can't even predict. Because when we look at the assessments, you see that, wow, this is not what we expected. This is actually much deeper than we expected. But some really gave new knowledge. And they gave the knowledge from their life and experiences along with what they gained in the classroom. From the training that they gained, from the interaction, from the courses.
Our institute firmly believes in the importance of preparing young generation to meet challenges of the 21st century by equipping them with the essential knowledge and skills in diplomacy and world affairs. This is the mission that the BIDTI will continue to strive for in the coming years. The BIDTI expresses its profound gratitude to everyone who has been an integral part of the Institute by contributing to its success and taking part in the memorable journey throughout 25 years.